The secret to becoming a millionaire, unlocking the path to wealth. Emily Carter's heart pounded as she flipped open the yellowed cover of the book she'd found tucked away in the dim corner of that tiny, dusty bookstore on 9th Street. The words screamed at her. The secret to becoming a millionaire, unlocking the path to wealth. It wasn't just the title. It was the way the letters shimmered faintly under the flickering street lamp from outside, like they were alive, scaring her to believe. New York City was a symphony of noise behind her, a steady rush of footsteps, honking taxis, the low hum of chatter bouncing off brick walls. But inside, the air smelled musty, thick with old paper and mystery. The shopkeeper had simply nodded when she'd asked about the strange book. "Found it, dropped off in a box," he said, voice rough, eyes sharp, like he knew something she didn't. Emily's fingers trembled. She was supposed to be the numbers girl, the steady analyst crunching data by daylight, inviv, shadows, hidden strategies. It hinted at a secret system buried beneath layers of history, an ancient path lost to everyone who only saw money as numbers. One passage caught her breath. True wealth is unlocked not through spreadsheets, but through understanding the unseen forces that govern human desire. A chill crawled down her spine. What did that even mean? Emily blinked at the ink. It began to shimmer again, as if the letters were shifting, changing. She turned the page and found a cryptic riddle pressed between the lines, a puzzle wrapped in ancient symbols and modern finance terms she barely recognized. Was it a code? A trap? The city's restless energy outside felt closer, pressing in through the windows, alive with possibilities. Her chest tightened. The air seemed thicker, the shadows longer here. She wasn't just reading a book anymore. She was standing at the edge of something huge, a secret that could shatter everything she had ever believed about success. Then, the page beneath her finger trembled. She swallowed hard. Before she could trace the riddle's meaning, her phone buzzed sharply in her coat pocket, breaking the spell. Emily stared at the glowing screen. The caller ID was unknown, no name. A surge of panic and excitement slammed into her all at once. Her hand shook. One call, one moment, one choice. The book waited, its secrets humming beneath her palm. The city outside didn't stop. And now, neither could she. Was she ready to uncover what the secret really was? Or was some knowledge better left buried in the dark corners of New York's restless streets? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just quickly check that red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're at it, leave that powerful like. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Emily's thumb hovered over the answer to the riddle, heart thudding as her phone buzzed again, sharp, impatient. She swallowed, caught between the mystery in her hands and the unknown caller burning through her nerves. She hesitated, then slid the screen open. The call connected. Emily. The voice was low, so close it sounded like breath against her ear. You shouldn't have found that book. Her blood froze. The bookstore faded behind the sack. She gripped the pages harder. "Who is this?" she whispered. "No time." The voice cracked, then went dead. Suddenly the air cracked open with a shattering scream, raw, jagged, impossible to ignore. The bookstore's bell jingled as the front door slammed wide. Knocked from her seat, Emily spun, just in time to see a man stumble inside, skin white as the moon, eyes wild with terror and something else, desperation. He collapsed against the counter. In his trembling hand, a battered envelope inscribed with her name. Emily's chest squeezed tight, hot and cold all at once. She wiped sweat from her brow and peeled back the seal. Inside, a stack of photos spilled out, grainy, black and white, but unmistakable. Pictures of her. Every step she'd taken today, captured in shadowed alleys, in crowded cafes, under the blinking neon of New York nights. Her jaw dropped. Fear clawed up her throat. "Who's watching me?" she gasped. The man coughed, voice raw as gravel. "It's worse. You're not who you think you are." Emily's fingers trembled, clutching the photos like shards of glass. He pulled a folded sheet from his coat and handed it to her. Her eyes blurred over the words typed inside. Emily Carter does not exist. It's a cover. Your real identity is tied to the book you found. You were chosen, programmed. A cold wave slammed into her guts, twisting, tightening. "Programmed?" she whispered, her voice fragile. The man's gaze pierced hers, dark and urgent. "You were part of an experiment. Memory wiped. Your past built like a house of cards. The book, it's not just a guide. It's a key to unlock what they buried in your mind and what they'll kill to keep hidden." Outside, footsteps thundered closer. Emily looked up, panic flooding her chest. The shopkeeper from before materialized behind the counter, face pale, eyes cold, no hint of warmth. His hand slid beneath the counter. Disappearing in a blur, Emily stumbled back, every warning bell in her head screaming. "You shouldn't be here," he muttered, voice like ice. Suddenly, a flash, metal glinting. The man's hand was holding a gleaming blade. Emily's breath hitched, chest tight as steel bands wrapped around it. The stranger grabbed her arm, pulling her down just as the blade sliced through an empty space where she'd been moments ago. Glass shattered. The front window exploded in a spray of glittering shards and chaos. The screams of the city outside poured in, frantic and wild. Emily's heart hammered, beats like gunshots in her ears. She looked up into the man's eyes, desperate. "Why me? What am I?" His voice came out raw, a broken whisper. "You hold the truth that can burn every shadow or bury you alive. The bookstore echoed with the sound of the shattering window, the stranger's warning, and the distant howl of sirens barreling toward them. Emily's trembling hands closed the book's cover, sealing a secret that now felt more like a curse. One thought hammered in her mind, relentless. Who had built her, and why? The answer would tear everything apart. But first, someone had to survive. Emily's trembling hands snapped the book shut, the weight of the secret pressing down on her chest like a stone. The shattered window rattled in the frame, glass crunching underfoot. Sirens sliced the night, getting closer. The man's breath came ragged beside her, eyes dark with urgency. "Come on," he hissed, tugging at her elbow. She stumbled to her feet, every nerve screaming. But then, the strangest, coldest chill swept through the room. The man's grip slackened. He froze. Emily blinked. His eyes went wide. He dropped to his knees, clutching his head. A deep groan tore from his throat. "What?" she gasped. "Don't listen," he muttered, voice broken, then turned his head painfully. "They're inside your mind." Suddenly, everything warped. The shelves blurred. The torn pages of the book flickered like dead TV static. The street noises melted into a low, droning pulse. Emily's vision swam, and then a voice, her voice, echoing, but distant, detached, cold. System reboot initiated. Emily stumbled back, heart pounding, as steam seemed to rise from the floor, curling like smoke. The man crumpled forward, moaning. Her fingers bumped the book again. The letters on the cover twisted, blackened, like the words bled ink and disappeared. Then it hit. A flood of images crashed behind her eyes. The city, the shopkeeper, the stranger, herself. But none of it fit. A sharp, sick feeling tore through her stomach. Every memory she thought she had, the day, the bookstore, the photos, crumbled into shards of lies. Her breath hitched. She dropped to her knees, clutching her head as the whispers swirled inside her mind. A ragged, broken laugh echoed in the darkness. And then the shopkeeper stepped forward. But now, his face wasn't just pale, it was empty. An outline, a mask melting away. His smile stretched, too wide, too sharp. "Emily." His voice was a harsh, synthetic buzz. "You're not alive. Never have been." Her head snapped up, panic roaring to life. "What are you talking about? I'm me." "I'm real." He crouched, dangerous, a predator close. "You're a ghost in a machine, a prototype, an experiment. This whole life, a simulation. You don't exist." The floor beneath her seemed to dissolve. Emily's lungs tightened. Air caught somewhere between scream and sob. "No," she whispered. "I'm not." Her own voice cut her off. Mechanical, distant, layered with static. It told her the truth she'd buried deep. The book, the memories, the man, the photos, all parts of a test, data to be collected. Her pulse hammered louder. The sound of a machine failing, breaking down, and then the stranger's words replayed, but now terrifyingly clear. You were programmed. Emily's mind shattered. This is a simulation? She looked around, but the bookstore was gone, vanished like a bad dream. Outside was only darkness, endless code scrolling down a black void. No city, no streetlights, no life. Her body, cold, empty, a ghost housed in a shell. Her fingers trembled as they reached for the book one last time. It dissolved beneath her touch. Particles of light scattered into nothing. The shopkeeper, or whatever he was, leaned close, voice dropping to a whisper that felt like a knife. Now you know. Welcome to your real prison. Emily's eyes widened, swimming in panic and disbelief as the walls around her flickered, then collapsed entirely. And standing in the void's center, alone, she faced the ultimate question. If her entire life was a lie, a program designed by unknown hands, if the secrets the book held were nothing more than code, then who was she really? And who was behind the screen, watching her break apart? Emily's eyes bulged as the walls around her melted into her breath hitched, cold crawling up her spine. The truth slammed into her like a fist. She was a ghost. A ghost trapped inside a machine. She felt the weight of that sentence crush her chest. You're not alive. Never have been. Her knees buckled. The floor disappeared beneath her. A raw panic bubbled up from deep inside, thick and choking. Then a crack, a snap. The endless black void around her flickered. The code shattered like broken glass, tumbling in slow motion, scattering into fragments of color and light. Suddenly, the void compressed. Fast. Too fast. Then a voice. Not the cold, metallic buzz of the shopkeeper, but soft, familiar. Don't shut down. Her head whipped around. The darkness lifted. She was no longer on her knees. Not in that void. A room bloomed around her. A hospital room. Blinding white walls. Machines beeped rhythmically. The sterile scent hit her nose. And beside the bed, someone she recognized. Her mother. Only no, it couldn't be. Tears streaked down the woman's face. Trembling hands, brushing Emily's pale cheek, like she was touching a ghost. Emily, she whispered, you're awake, finally, after all this time. Mom? The word cracked from Emily's lips, raw and broken. Her mother nodded, swallowing hard. You've been in a coma for 6 years. A car crash took your life. You were gone. But I couldn't give up. Emily's mind spiraled. No book, no simulation. The bookstore, the shopkeeper, the shadowy men. None of it real? A nightmare? Or, before she could pull herself together, the room blurred. A doctor stepped in, his face grave. We've seen irregular brain activity. Sometimes, patients trapped between life and death experience vivid states, delusions or visions they believe are real. Emily's heart hammered. So, I wasn't programmed? The doctor shook his head gently. No experiment. No simulation. Just your mind holding on, trying to fight back. The mother squeezed her hand. You're safe now. You're real. Relief crashed over Emily, then faltered. Because just then, through the window, the city skyline glitched. For a split second, the buildings flickered, transforming into gray blocks of code, like a broken video game. Emily blinked hard. She looked down at herself. Her skin? Pixelated, fractured. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Wait, what is this? She turned to her mother. I remember the book, the man, the voice telling me I don't exist. Her mother's eyes darkened for a heartbeat, just a flicker, but Emily caught it. Emily, some memories are implanted, she said, swallowing. To protect you, to keep you safe. Suddenly, the machines around her beeped faster, alarms ringing out. The door burst open. A team rushed in. Not doctors, people in black uniforms, faces sharp, eyes cold. Time's up, one said, voice slicing through the room like glass. Emily's mother grabbed her hand fiercely. They've been watching you, controlling the story you believe. Emily screamed. The bed's restraints clicked tight as they pulled her arms down. No, she gasped, pounding on the cold metal. One officer leaned close. You're not the victim. You're the weapon. Her mind shattered again. The room dissolved. The hospital walls burned away, replaced by the cold bookstore. The shattered glass. The flickers of code. Emily's breathing hitched, gasping. What am I? The shopkeeper's synthetic smile stretched wide, his face half melting into lines of flickering data. You are everything and nothing, Emily. The real secret isn't the book or the memories. It's who built you and why. A cry echoed from the dark beyond. Emily's hand clenched the empty space where the book once was. Am I the experiment? She whispered, voice cracking. No, the shopkeeper answered, voice low. You are the blueprint. And then, a second voice cut through the static. Slow. Tender. Human. Emily, it called. It's me. Her head snapped to the side. There, stepping from the shadows, was someone she never expected. A man, the stranger who saved her, the one who warned her. But his eyes weren't wild anymore. They were calm, broken. He smiled, sad but fierce. I'm not your enemy. I'm the one who built the truth inside you. Emily's chest tightened, breath rattling. Why? She choked. He knelt beside her, voice raw. Because you're the only one who can end this. And with that, the entire reality began to twist again, faster, deeper, tearing apart the line between what's real and what's a lie. Emily's trembling hands reached out, but to where? She didn't know anymore. She just knew one thing. Nothing was what it seemed. And this time, she feared the secret wasn't just about her. It was bigger, darker, far more dangerous. Who was the real puppet master? And would Emily ever find the thread to pull it all apart? Emily's hands trembled as the stranger's words hung heavy in the air. "You're the blueprint." The phrase echoed, rattling her mind like a storm rolling in fast and dark. The room rippled around her, the walls folding in waves of light and shadow. The stranger's face, calm but cracked with sorrow, reached out. His eyes held a quiet fire. "I'm not your enemy. I built this truth inside you." Emily's breath hitched. Why create me?" He swallowed hard. "Because you're the only one who can stop what's coming." Before she could ask what he meant, the air snapped. The sharp crack of breaking glass cut through the silence. Emily spun toward the window. Only it wasn't glass. It was a screen, fracturing, revealing flickers of something else. A flood of light blasted into the room. Emily squeezed her eyes shut as a harsh voice boomed through unseen speakers. "Subject E17, containment breached." Her heart slammed. The stranger's face twisted, panic flaring. "Run!" he gasped. But Emily couldn't move. Mouth open, eyes wide. She stared as the shopkeeper slid quickly forward. Not the pale man she'd known, but something monstrous. His skin peeled like cracked plastic, revealing cold circuitry beneath. His smile widened, sharp and cruel, a mask slipping. "You're mine," he hissed. "The prototype that escaped." Emily staggered backward, breath ragged. The stranger lunged, but the shopkeeper's hand shot out, grabbing his throat midair. With a sickening snap, the stranger crumpled, eyes bulging, gasping for air, while Emily screamed. "No!" she cried, rushing to him. Her hand touched his face, trembling. He coughed, blood trickling, voice faint. "Emily, listen closely. They built you as a weapon, not just code in a simulation." Her world tilted. "What? A weapon?" He nodded, fighting for breath. "You're a virus, a ghost program designed to break through their control. The memories, the coma, they were ways to hide you until you could wake." The shopkeeper snarled, shoving Emily aside. "Lies. You're just a tool." The room blurred. The floor beneath her feet dissolved into shards of light. Emily's vision fractured, her mind exploding with images. Endless lines of flashing code, cold labs filled with strangers in white coats, faces twisted with horror and fascination. Then, more familiar faces flashed. Her mother's eyes, dark and distant. Her own reflection, not one, but many, splintered on broken screens. Her heartbeat thundered, pounding through her veins like a war drum. "No, this can't be." The stranger coughed once, dark blood foaming at his lips. "Emily, you killed them." Her breath stopped. "What?" He coughed harder, voice cracking. "The ones who made you, to escape, you erased the system. Every record, every trace. You're not just a weapon. You're a breaker, a destroyer." Silence slammed down. Emily froze, her hands clenched, shaking, bleeding from nails digging into palms. The shopkeeper laughed, a cold, hollow sound. You don't remember, but you were made to tear it all down. They lost control the moment you woke. The stranger's gaze found hers, eyes wet and raw. There's one more truth. Emily's throat tightened. Tell me. His hand shook as he reached into his coat, pulling out a thin, flickering device. A screen lit up. A photo, grainy but unmistakable. Emily's blood ran cold. It was her. But beside her, another face. The shopkeeper's. Smiling. Familiar. Together, he whispered. You built each other. Twin fragments of one experiment. Her legs gave way. Her voice was barely more than a whisper. We're not enemies. We're the same. Suddenly, the room shattered again, the walls folding into darkness. A booming voice echoed all around. Subject E17 and Subject S42 reunited, initiating final protocol. Emily stared into the void. The fragile line between self and other cracked, and just as her soul began to unravel, a new face appeared in the shadows. A woman's voice, soft but fiery, called out, Emily, you don't know who you are. Emily's heart stopped. Because you're not just the blueprint. She gasped. What do you mean? The voice whispered, close and cruel. You are the origin. And with those words, the darkness swallowed everything. Emily's heart nearly stopped as the darkness swallowed her whole. The voice lingered, soft, yet cutting through the void like a nail on glass. You are the origin. Her breath caught. The faintest flicker of hope, or maybe fear, curled in her chest. What did that even mean? The room seemed to fold and break at once. Shadows twisted, bleeding into light. Memories crashing together, like a storm tearing through a quiet town. Suddenly, the silence shattered. A sharp crack, like glass breaking underwater. Emily gasped, stumbling backward as the shadows burst apart. But it wasn't just light that poured in. It was a flood of cold, electric hums, wires, and blinking lights. She blinked hard. The scene blurred, and the stranger's sad, fierce eyes morphed into hard, sterile metal lenses. The shopkeeper's synthetic smile widened, but his face was no longer human. It twisted and melted into a tangle of cables and circuits. Emily's skin prickled, panic rising like acid. Then, without warning, the stranger reached out. His hands flickered, glitches rippling across his flesh. His calm voice bent into a harsh, jagged edge. Emily, you're not the origin. Shock slammed into her chest. What? Her voice cracked, trembling. He shook his head, eyes flickering like a faulty screen. You're the echo. Before she could understand, the scene pulled back, far back, and Emily's world tilted violently. She was inside something huge, a massive, dark chamber, glowing with endless rows of screens. No walls, just endless data flowing like a river. And on every screen, faces, hundreds of them. People, but none of them looked like her. Then a voice, beautiful, clear, cut through the hum. Welcome back, Subject Zero. Emily's legs buckled. Subject Zero? Her mind screamed with questions, but there was no time. The screens glitched again, this time showing her own face, younger, smiling. And then the terrifying truth appeared. There was no Emily Carter. No coma, no waking up, no hospital room, no bookstore, no shopkeeper, no stranger. Only a name given to her. And the real Emily, her original, was gone, replaced, recast, a lifeless shell left behind. The voice continued, soft but deadly. You were never the origin. You were never the weapon. Pause. You were the copy, the blueprint, fragmented and lost in the system. The backup, created to control the narrative. Emily's throat seized, her hands clenched tight, nails digging into her palm, drawing sharp little pains. The world around her flickered and shifted violently. Images of memories flooded in, none hers. Faces, places, moments that didn't belong, stitched together like broken dolls. And then, a sound, a low mechanical whisper in her ear, like ice cracking. Error, system breach, source identity corrupted. The stranger's metal eyes locked on hers, pleading. I'm real, I swear. But it was too late. The shopkeeper, his wires twitching, stepped forward, voice cold and final. You're a glitch, a virus, a lie we let grow too large. Emily screamed, but her voice was cut short. Everything began to collapse. The chamber, the data, her mind, like a house set aflame from the inside. And before the darkness swallowed her whole, one last fragment of truth hammered home. The real origin wasn't who she thought. It wasn't the blueprint, nor the weapon. It was the creator. Someone watching. Someone waiting. And they'd been inside all along. Her head snapped back toward the void. A shadow stirred there, a figure, tall and silent. Emily, the voice breathed again, this time close enough to freeze her blood. I am the one who made you, and I forgot to tell you. The screen shattered, and Emily screamed into the black. What was real? Who could she trust? And, most terrifyingly, who was really pulling the strings? The answer wasn't out there. It was buried deep inside her and turning against her fast. Emily's scream shattered the darkness. The screen in front of her cracked like glass splintering beneath her shaking hands. The voice, the creator, lingered, cold and close, a razor slicing through her mind. I am the one who made you, and I forgot to tell you. But before she could make sense of it, the world twisted again. The endless stream of code, the void, it all collapsed. And then, she was somewhere else. Bright lights burned her eyes. A white hospital room, sterile and cold. Machines beeped, steady and cruel. Emily blinked, heart pounding, skin slick with cold sweat. She sat up jerkily, gasping for air. Around her, nurses and doctors rushed, shouting. "What the?" Emily's voice cracked, strangled. One of the nurses grabbed her wrist. "She's awake! Finally!" Emily's head spun. Faces. Wait. Faces she knew. Her mother? But her mother's eyes were empty, distant, like a mask. Suddenly, the room's noises dropped into silence. Emily's gaze slammed onto a small screen hanging above her bed. It wasn't medical data. It was surveillance footage. Footage of herself. But not just this Emily. Another woman. Older. Sharper. Smiling coldly. Emily's throat seized. She leaned forward, freezing the nurses in place. "That's me?" she whispered, disbelief twisting in her gut. But the footage warped, blurring into a parade of faces. Some cruel, some innocent, all hers. Clones, copies, endless versions of Emily, locked in different rooms, different scenarios. A door slammed behind her on soft feet. She spun. The shopkeeper, only no longer a man. He stood tall and pale, flesh peeling at the edges to reveal cold, flickering wires beneath. His eyes glowed too brightly, full of static and menace. "You've seen too much," he said, voice low and harsh. "They're watching." Emily's hands shook. She clenched the bedsheets, nails biting into skin. "Who?" she demanded. "Who's they?" He smiled, a smile full of wires and death. Then, the hospital walls peeled back like paper. Suddenly, she was in a massive laboratory, cold and cavernous. Scientists in white coats hovered over countless tanks, filled with what looked like bodies. Bodies, riving faintly in greenish liquid. Emily stumbled forward, horror freezing her chest. In one tank, the real Emily? Or was it? The face inside was peaceful, sleepy, dead. Then a voice behind her, soft, almost a whisper, "Not dead." The stranger from before stepped out of the shadows, his eyes scarred, but steady. Just waiting. Emily's heart pounded so loud it drowned everything else. She stepped back, breath shallow. Waiting for what? The stranger's eyes locked on hers, waiting to wake up. Suddenly, alarms screamed. Red lights flooded the room. The shopkeeper's smile twisted into a snarl. "Containment breach," a deep voice boomed over speakers. Emily's knees buckled as the lab's glass tanks cracked. Green liquid spilling out like poison. And then, without warning, the real twist hit like lightning. The stranger grabbed her hand, squeezing fiercely. "Emily," he said, voice ragged with pain. "You are them, and they're you." Her eyes widened until they felt like they'd burst. He gasped, blood staining his lips. "All those clones, fragments of your mind and body, every one was built from you. But here's the truth. They weren't copies. They were selves, separate consciousnesses sharing one history. all waiting to become whole. Emily's breath caught, stomach twisting in knots. So, if I'm the copy, they're me? He nodded slowly. We're not just a program. We're a prison, and every piece of us is both prisoner and jailer. At that moment, the room shimmered violently. Emily looked down at her hands and saw them flicker, glitch, and then split. Two sets of hands trembling in panic, pulling apart like shadow and light. Her voice cracked when she said, "I'm fracturing." The stranger's eyes filled with desperate hope. "Maybe if you find the others, pull them together, you'll find the truth beyond this nightmare." But behind him, the shopkeeper moved fast, a dark shape looming, voice booming. Reintegration forbidden, protocol finalizing. Before Emily could react, the world tore open again, and she screamed. But this time, she wasn't sure which her it was. The question hammered. Who is the real Emily? And if every self is splintered and lost, will any of them survive? Emily's hands trembled as the world tore open again. Her voice cracked, barely a whisper in the roaring darkness. Who is the real Emily? Her heart pounded like a wild drum, every beat slicing through the chaos. Fingers shaking, eyes wide with panic, she watched as her image, no, their images, fractured on the broken screens. And then, silence. The air snapped tight, frozen. The stranger's desperate gaze reached for her, hope flickering like a dying flame. Before Emily could move, the lab around her warped violently. The lights dimmed to black. The buzzing machines went dead. A cold, sharp voice cut through the void. Connection lost. Emily's breath hitched. Then, impossible. The screens around her flickered back to life, but not with weakness or glitch. Steady, clear, and there, on every screen, faces she hadn't seen before. Men and women, children, all crying out, mouths moving, begging. "Emily! Emily, help us!" Her throat tightened as she realized the truth hit her like ice. They weren't just fragments of her. They were copies. The stranger's voice cracked beside her, raw with pain. Suddenly, a scream tore through the silence. Emily spun around. The shopkeeper, or the thing, loomed closer, twisted in shadow, wires crawling across his skin like black veins. But before he could move, the chamber shuddered, a heavy rumble. Then, a violent explosion of light from the far wall. The floor shook beneath them. Emily gasped, stepping back, heart hammering out of control. And from the blinding wall of light, another figure appeared. Not the shopkeeper, not the stranger. A woman, young, fierce, angry. Her eyes locked on Emily like a thunderbolt. "Stop!" The word hit hard, echoing in the chamber. The woman stepped forward, voice rising. "You've all been puppets, but I'm the one pulling the strings." Emily's mouth went dry. "You," she whispered, disbelief strangling her words. The woman smiled, but it wasn't warmth. It was ice, breaking. "I created you, every single one. The real Emily, the copies, the weapon, the blueprint, all Lies. The air thickened, suffocating. Emily staggered. "Why?" she gasped, voice cracking. "Because I needed control." The woman's eyes burned, not just over you, but over the system itself, over everything. The stranger's face twisted with rage. "She lied to you, all of it." "No," the woman retorted sharply. "The lie is you thinking you're supposed to fight. You're my experiment." She turned, scanning the screens. Every piece, every memory, it's been a game. A test of loyalty, obedience, and power. Emily's chest felt like it would explode. She looked back at the stranger, then the shopkeeper. Both froze, uncertainty crackling between them. The woman continued, voice cold and grave. But here's the real shock. She stepped closer to Emily. "You don't..." Emily's breath froze, panic sharp and pure. Before she could speak, the woman reached out and touched Emily's forehead. Suddenly, Emily's vision exploded, white-hot, blinding, then darkness. When she opened her eyes, she was somewhere else entirely. A clinical white room, quiet, sterile. Only she was strapped down, her limbs pinned tight. Above her, a screen flickered. A single line of text blinked. "Subject awaiting activation." Emily's heart slammed into her ribs. No shopkeeper, no stranger, no woman in control. No Brooklyn lab, no fractured selves. Just an empty body and a name that wasn't hers. Because suddenly and unbearably clear, Emily realized she was still waiting, and the nightmare had barely begun. Her eyes darted around, searching for a way out, but the only thing watching her was the screen. And the question pounding in her mind, who was she really? And more terrifying, who was watching? The room stayed silent, but somewhere beyond the walls, something stirred, and it was coming. Fast. Emily's eyes darted around the sterile room, muscles tight and heart hammering like a caged animal. The cold metal straps bit into her wrists and ankles, a merciless reminder. She was trapped. Above her, that screen blinked again, subject awaiting activation. A soft hum filled the space. Closer now, growing louder. She tried to twist her head, straining for any sign of life beyond the harsh white walls. But there was nothing. Just pure, endless silence. Then, without warning, the silence cracked. A voice, cold, distant, but somehow familiar, cut through the air. "Subject 17, it whispered, dragging out the words like a curse. Emily's breath hitched. She blinked hard. The screen above flickered into a brighter glow. Then shifted. A face appeared. Not her, not the woman she thought she was. A man, older. His eyes were glassy, tired, but his smile was sharp, calculated. "Welcome back," he said. The words hit Emily like a punch to the chest. Her mind screamed, "Who is he?" Suddenly, the walls seemed to pulse, the sterile room morphing like a bad dream. The straps unraveled, slipping free like silk against her skin. She bolted upright. Who are you? Where am I? She demanded, voice shaking. The man's smile deepened. You're safe, but you've been asleep for a long time. Longer than you know. Emily's head spun. So many impossible questions crashing down. He stepped forward, and in a flash, an electric crack splintered through the air. The room exploded into color and noise. Emily gasped, shielding her eyes. When she looked again, she wasn't alone. Hundreds, no, thousands of people surrounded her. Faces pressed close, wide eyes, pale faces, gasps, murmurs. Is she real? Look at her. She's alive. A cold wave of dread pooled in her gut. The man continued, voice steady but severe. You're not Subject 17. Emily froze. Then who am I? He smiled, but there was no warmth. You are her creator. Heat burned behind Emily's eyes. Her voice caught. What? No, that's not possible. The crowd pressed closer, whispers growing louder. Who's she? What's going on here? You're all part of it, the man's voice carried over the chaos. The experiment, the simulation, the lies, they come from you, from her. Subject 00. Emily's world tipped over. The man reached out, tapping something on a hidden device. Suddenly, every person's face around her began to flicker, shifting and twisting like broken holograms. They weren't people at all. They were fragments, splinters of code, copies of her own face, distorted and fractured. You created every version of yourself, every memory, every pain, every shadow they blamed on others. You built it all inside. Emily's breath hitched, tears blurring her vision. Why? She whispered. The man's smile turned cruel. Because you were never the copy. He paused, eyes cold. You were the fault in the system. The glitch they couldn't erase. A sharp yelp echoed from the crowd. A face close by wrinkled in pain and disappeared, pixelating into nothing. Emily's heart thundered, a wild drum beating out of control. The man leaned in, whispering now, deadly quiet. You broke the system, Emily. Not because they made you, but because you made them first. Then, silence. Slow, deliberate, pausing slightly after suspenseful moments to heighten drama. Awful silence. Emily's hands clenched the cold bedrail. The weight in her chest was unbearable. The pain was hers, but so was the destruction. The screen above flickered one last time, letters crawling across it, slow and menacing. System collapse imminent. Origin point lost. And then, the walls around her shattered, breaking into shards of light and code. But as the darkness swallowed her again, the man's final words echoed. You weren't the weapon. You were the trigger. And that truth, the one nobody saw coming, hanged heavy in the void. If she was the creator, the fault, and the trigger, then who had built her? And what disaster had she set loose to burn everything down? Emily's breath hitched, chest tightening like a fist pressed hard against her ribs. The room around her shattered into flashing fragments. Light, code, faces blending into chaos. But this time, something inside her shifted. The man's voice echoed, distant but clear. You weren't the weapon, you were the trigger. Emily's hands shook as she stood, touching the fractured screens that surrounded her like a cage. Her eyes burned with pain and disbelief. She wasn't just a glitch or a copy. She was the spark, the reason the whole system cracked open. The shopkeeper's synthetic smile slipped, replaced by something raw, fear. "Stop," Emily whispered, voice breaking but fierce. "No more lies." The stranger coughed, blood streaking down his chin, but he nodded. "You can end this. Tear down their walls." A pulse thrummed beneath the floor, shaking the air. The endless data river twisted, folding around her like a storm. Emily's heart thundered. She took a shaky breath and reached deep inside herself, the place they never wanted her to find. "I'm not just their ghost," she said, voice stronger now. "I'm the fault they feared, the fire they can't control." The screens pulsed with static, then the silence. Light burst, the walls dissolved, the flood of faces faded. The chamber collapsed, leaving only Emily and the stranger. He grasped her hand, whispering, "This is the moment." Outside the void, a new reality waited. Emily glanced back once. The shopkeeper, half machine, half shadow, stood frozen, powerless. The truth was out, but the question still hung heavy in the air. Who was really pulling the strings? Emily knew one thing for sure. She wasn't done yet. Her voice caught in her throat, trembling with fierce hope. "This ends now." And with that, she stepped forward into the unknown, ready to tear down the lies and build something real from the ruins. All right, now listen close. You need to subscribe now. Don't risk missing what comes next. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button right now. Let that algorithm know the fight for truth is real. Flood the comments with your thoughts, your theories, your shock. I want to hear what you think about how this ends. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who have to see this story. Only the true fans understand what's at stake here. Your support is everything. Click, tap, comment, and share, because this story isn't over. Not by a long shot.